Technically, there is one 7th generation Pokemon that I have not reviewed yet, and that is going to be Zygarde's Complete form. So I saw a couple of comments about it, and let's just go and wrap up these 7th generation. But I will say, Legendaries are not my strong suit to begin with, and then Zygarde's Complete form is a fairly exclusive Pokemon to get a hold of. I haven't gone around collecting all the Zygarde cubes and stuff, and when we look at the base material, Zygarde didn't really get a lot of momentum in 6th generation, so just got like double Zygarde's hit points, and that's going to be the Complete form. So yeah, that does sound broken. Maybe I'll just kind of jank my way through talking about this video, and we'll come up with a couple of things. It's just so strange with like the way the formats work, how rare it is to see and use this Pokemon, but still a very powerful Pokemon because the stats are absolutely ridiculous. So when we look at the moveset for Zygarde and its Complete form, we're going to notice something missing here. That Zygarde doesn't get Dragon Dance through level up in the 7th generation, even though it got in the 6th generation. I was kind of like confused when I saw that. Well, that's because it is going to be from the special Zygarde that you receive down here. So this is kind of going to be the big change to Zygarde that we knew about. 1,000 arrows, 1,000 waves. This right here is where everyone started losing their mind, like, yo, 1,000 waves, 1,000 arrows, these are Zygarde exclusive moves, and we haven't heard about Z version yet, and it's going to get like the Giratina treatment, right? Well, who knew? It just had to wait an extra generation. But yeah, these are going to be some really nice moves that we can use. Not as powerful as the Earthquake, but gives us a lot more safety in double battles and the extra effect, so losing 10% of power does make a lot of sense. Then here's Dragon Dance and Extreme Speed, and Core Enforcer is a special attack, so I don't really know much about that. And yeah, we can see that the rest of it is just going to be that Zygarde coverage. It was already like a coiling Pokemon into damage that didn't really have insane amounts of sustain. But also at the same time, yeah, like we just Dragon Dance, we coil, and then cool things can happen. So let's just go straight into the Pokemon Showdown, and we can look at the changes. So Zygarde, it's going to have effectively the same stats, except as you might notice, the speed is going to drop by 10. That goes into special attack, so I guess Core Enforcer buff. Now, Power Construct is really weird to talk about because even when we look at Mega Evolutions, those don't modify the hit point value. So seeing the base hit points change on a Pokemon mid-battle, really screwy things can happen, and that's kind of why we haven't seen it up until now. The Power Construct, when Zygarde with Power Construct drops below 50% of its health, it goes up to Zygarde Complete's form, so it just adds that health. So it's kind of like getting a free heal and not really much else. That's kind of like the way of seeing it. Power Construct activates, you get the heal, and then your stats change very little. It's not like all of a sudden it becomes a Mega Evolution on top of a heal, on top of all these other things, but at the same time, 108 base hit points in the middle of a battle is pretty nuts. So that's kind of where like all of the stats from the Zygarde are going to get powered down from. And then other than that, you're just running a Zygarde stat, but now you just have a lot more health bulk to play around with. So first thing I'm thinking about is that we have Coil and whatever you want to do. I've seen Coil Sub, I've seen Coil Glare, I've seen all kinds of Coil things, but I really like the 1,000 arrows because it means we don't have to worry about getting move slot syndrome. That normally if you're running Rest, Sleep, Talk with a setup move, you only get one damaging option. Dragon can be immune by Fairy, and then Ground is going to be immune by Flying and Levitate, but 1,000 arrows will ground them. So this is actually really nice. We have a powerful stab hit that makes it to where we have less things to worry about with the immunities. I think the only way of stopping this is that the effect is negated by Substitute. So unless it's a Levitate or a Flying Pokemon Substitute, you pretty much get to trash everything with this. And then because of the insane amount of tankiness we have off our hit points, max out special defense, go for Coil to gain defense, and yeah, that's kind of all that there is to it. Even though Coil raises accuracy, there's not really much we're going to add on to that. And there are a couple of options you can take. You can take the Chesto Resto. So Chesto Resto means you're going to just guarantee those extra coils. You're going to guarantee the damage when you need it. And then after that, the Sleep Talk can kind of come through. Or you can have leftovers. What I like about the leftovers on a Rest Sleep Talk set, even though it doesn't make sense, like, oh, I'm going up to full hit points. Why do I need any extra sustain? Well, when we have stats like this, it's nice if you're getting a 16th of your hit points at the end of every turn while you're asleep, because that means you're just going to get a little bit of extra survivability. That it might be because of leftovers, you wake up and then you're able to survive and go back into a Rest Sleep Talk for an extra coil, an extra 1,000 arrows that will go and finish off the opponent. So yeah, that's kind of it. Just run the Adamant Nature, get the most damage out of it, coil twice, and then everything is pretty much going to die from there. If they have a physical attacking Pokemon, they just can't hit you. And if they have a special attacking Pokemon, they do good damage, but we still have a 95 special defense, 216 hit point Pokemon. That's very, very scary. Actually, it's been a while. What's Chansey running at? Chansey runs at the 105, so not as specially tanky as a Chansey, but we don't really see many Pokemon go over 200 on the hit points, so the damage calculations are pretty fuzzy when you start getting there. Then we just have straight up offensive Zygarde, it's kind of the same idea that when you have the hit point stat being as high as it is on the Zygarde, you get a lot of survivability, you get a lot of opportunities to just do things, unless you're getting like really jankily two-shot, because if you're getting two-shot, that means a 60% into a 60%. So at some point, the Power Construct's going to activate, and then you just get an extra breath of life, and then you get to do more. So unless you're getting one hit KO'd, therefore Power Construct doesn't activate, or if they're doing like a weak-ish hit, and then a very powerful hit to kind of play around the Power Construct, it's pretty much going off. And your hit points are so high that your hit point investment isn't really worth it at all. Mostly because of like just gain percentages that we go from 573 to 636 compared to 226 all the way up to 289, or even if we're like playing it around. So your effective gains are going to be higher here. Pretty much just split your defenses, max out your attack, and now you're going to be very tanky, surviving a lot of hits, and then you can get 2 Dragon Dances. That's pretty much the number that we're looking for. Plus 2 something, which is also why I don't have any speed investment, even though we're going to be running a Dragon Dance set. I kind of just teched in the Figgy Berry because, yeah, why not gain half of your hit points when you have a 216 base? So all that tankiness is just going to kind of scale really well, and at plus 2 Dragon Dance, well, that's 412 speed at level 100, and if we drop this down to level 50, the numbers are still very good. So already outspeeding all the Pokemon that really matter after 2 Dragon Dance, and that's going to be our sweet spot anyways. So now we pick up those 2 Dragon Dances, we just outspeed everything, and they die, and it's kind of like, do you want sweep versus setup? Setup has its own weaknesses, Dragon Dance has its own weaknesses as well, but with this, you're just going to be very bulky against physical attackers. So if you can eliminate the primary special attacking threats on your opponent, you just bring this in, coil it up, and then you'll play the slower game, but eventually your opponent will just die as they run out of options to take care of you. With this Zygarde, you just run the damage and things will get crazy. The extreme speed is kind of weird. It just feels like you run it just to run it on Zygarde in a lot of situations. I don't feel like there's going to be situations where the Ice Shard is going to severely threaten you, even as a Dragon Ground type Pokemon. But just in case, having extreme speed is good right there. But also, if we're Dragon Dancing and boosting our speed, what else is going to outspeed us? I guess it's like 140 base speed Pokemon in certain Scarfs. So you can carry extreme speed for that, or you just don't worry about extreme speed, and then you run other kinds of coverage. So Dragon Dance, Earthquake, Outrage is something that you can run as an option, and then you get a lot of other moves that we have. These Stone Edge, we have Crunch. So whatever coverage you want to add to the Zygarde is certainly something you can run right there. Now, as for some other things you can do on the Zygarde, Dragon Tail works good on those stally, bulky sets. If you're running Substitute, it's very common to have the Dragon Tail while having Stealth Rocks up. Corn Forcer is also an interesting one. Nullifies the foe's ability if the target moves first. So if you're running the Corn Forcer, then you want to get your IVs as low as possible, run a Brave Nature on the Zygarde, and then there's a chance that your opponent just outspeeds you, you nullify the ability, and if it's an offensive-based ability or something that's really good for it, it can help out with the stall set. So like Sub, Corn Forcer, something Coil, but then like I think we get move slot syndrome, so it's kind of hard to find an opportunity to run the Corn Forcer. Has a lot of really nice utility, maybe usable in a double set if you're running just like a bulky support-ish Zygarde. I mean, there could be some kind of crazy combo with the Corn Forcer, but I haven't seen it yet because I haven't seen much Zygarde complete form anyway, so that's something that happens. Now, when it comes to 1,000 Waves and 1,000 Arrows, again, this is really good in doubles because it doesn't hit your allied Pokemon. It just hits both the opponents, so you're cutting back on the damage quite a bit, but you are getting those extra effects as well. And this is also something you can tech into a single set. Instead of having 1,000 Arrows, you have 1,000 Waves. Prevents them from switching. So if you can get it on a physical Pokemon, set up that 1,000 Waves, then the opponent just dies. Now the problem is, it's not going to have the same effect as the 1,000 Arrows, so you will need another move in here for coverage. Coil Stone Edge is something I'm a big fan of because, hey, Coil raises accuracy, Stone Edge has that low-ish accuracy, but then that's why I recommend the Chesto Resto. So it's not going to be as good as the Sleep Talk, but it kind of doesn't matter. You lock in a physical attacking Pokemon, you Coil plus 6, and then you just win the battle after that, because, okay, you Chesto Resto, you rest. If you have high defenses against a physical attacking Pokemon, you wake up from that rest, and you still have half your health remaining, so you can finish off the opponent whenever you want at that point, and then you just have to tank up enough moves to survive. So at plus 6, you just one-shot as many Pokemon as possible, and that's it. So it's 1,000 Waves. I haven't seen many people talking about it, but I think if you want to play a lock-in set against just a trapping set against a physical attacking Pokemon, yeah, the opponent isn't going to be able to do anything against you at that point. So if you can play that properly, then that's going to be really nice. If they switch in like a flying type Pokemon or special attacker, well, 1,000 Waves, it prevents them from switching. So you just switch into something that deals with it, and that bolt could be pretty scary. Same with like 1000 waves and double battles, that if you're using 1000 waves, well, now you know that they're not going to try to go for some kind of cheeky switch prediction. You know they're in the battle and they're stuck there, so you might as well just finish them off however you need to. And that's mostly a lot of what I have to say about the Zygarde. I haven't seen it, I don't know how it applies hands-on, but those sets sound pretty good and it seems pretty effective with the Zygarde. As for damage calculations, so Adamant Nature +1, so Dragon Dance, Coil, whatever +1 with a singles Earthquake. That's going to be a lot of damage onto a Pokemon like the Weavile. However, we are going to be using something like the 1000 Arrows, 1000 Waves, so that's a 90 base power, and against the, I wouldn't say the frailest, but very frail sweeping Pokemon, we can see that the Earthquake at +1 is just barely going to be enough, so that's why we have to start going into other numbers at +2. So we have Adamant +2, Brave, whatever you're running, against a Silvally. Silvally is considerably tankier. As we can see at +2, we're finding fairly high chance to KO Pokemon like this. Garchomp is going to be even tankier than that. So at +2, 2-hit KOing pretty much every Pokemon, or 1-hit KOing most Pokemon. At +3, everything will die. So plan your stat boosting accordingly. And now just to get into the sheer stupidity and tankiness of a 216 base hit point Pokemon, that, my friends, is a Garchomp using a super effective Dragon Claw and only being a 3-hit KO. So that means Dragon Dance, kill Garchomp. So yeah, the Garchomp is only a 3-hit KO with a super effective hit. That's a really kind of like crazy and scary thing to think about. The Earthquake is a 4-hit KO some of the time. So really, it's just like Dragon Dance and then kill Garchomp. Now, it could be Scarf Chomp, and then we're getting into like some weird situations. Also, as we saw earlier, the +2 on the Earthquake isn't going to be enough to straight up take out the Garchomp, but +1 Outrage is also going to be a very terrifying thing to be running on the Zygarde. And don't forget, we're also running the Figgy Berry, so that makes it at least a 4-hit KO on a super effective Garchomp's attack with Stab. So anything weaker than that is also going to be doing considerably less damage. And yeah, neutral hits are going to be alright, but Zygarde is just super bulky like that, which means you get as many coils or as many Dragon Dances as you need, and then you even have a little bit of extra survivability after that. So scary Pokemon. Best way of dealing with Zygarde, I would say, is burning it, praying, ice. It's kind of difficult. Like, you would need to status this thing into oblivion and then just have like the most ferocious defensive tank that can kind of outstall it while you chip away at it and it's burned, and then stuff like that happens. I don't really know what else to say about that. The best thing you can do is try to play weird, you know, do a 40% move into a 60%, so intentionally hit not as hard and then try to hit harder, so that way you don't get Zygarde into that situation with the Power Construct, because that's really it. Like, Power Construct needs to activate. You're half of a Zygarde, like, you're half of Zygarde's complete form until that happens. So if you can take out Zygarde before dropping it to half, and then before getting it to a quarter, and then not worrying about the Wiki Berry, that's kind of it. So if you see a Zygarde, anticipate Power Construct, play accordingly, and then hope you don't just accidentally pop that, because then things are going to get pretty bad from there. So realistically, like, these damage calculations, they aren't quite like this, because if the Zygarde just eats too much damage or doesn't go into Power Construct, then you're not worrying about that long-term tankiness. So yeah, Zygarde's going to be really weird to talk about, because the Dragon Claw will be enough to put it into that form, and then after it gains the health, it was effectively the damage against the 216 base hit points. So it's kind of weird talking about and doing the numbers for this, but then when we look at like the Earthquake into the Dragon Claw, is that the way of dealing with this? So Earthquake's going to do about 40%, then Dragon Claw can do 60%. So on a good damage roll, like if you go high-ish on the Earthquake and then you just hit a Dragon Claw, yeah, it's going to be enough to go and take out the Zygarde before it can go into the Power Construct form. So kind of that's the counterplay about it, kind of it. Like, if it happens and then you get into its complete form, you just kind of lose. So that's what I have to say about it. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.